Sulphur. We are live, Restore the Republic. Today I'm with Soil Jurisdiction Sheriff Adam Bonner on the unincorporated Summit County, Ohio. I am Andrew Ike, Sheriff of the unincorporated Richland County, Ohio. And how you doing, Adam?
Excellent. How about yourself?
Doing good. It is Saturday night, just kind of going off script tonight a little bit, talking about a few things that have been bugging me. And, it should be bugging everybody. These things are just getting out of hand, getting a little crazy, and just trying to rein people back into what we're doing, what we're trying to strive for, things like that. So we're going to start off with pretty much on social medias. Everyone is noticing and talking and putting on social media a lot of stuff about the birth certificates, about the fraud, about these corporations, about trusts, UCC claims. Everybody's trying to find their remedy in all this. They think it can be done. And over and over and over, they put it on there. And I just want to tell them, hey, when are the people going to realize that you can't get remedy in those courts, right?
Well, maybe a few years back, it seems like due to social media, everything that we're hearing and seeing, they're hearing and seeing also. In fact, they have people that they delegate, whether it be in the municipalities, the police department, sheriff's departments, you name it. They got people watching just as we are. Yeah. So it would be very easy then to combat against any information that might be useful, while filling out your court paperwork or trying to get your remedy, citing all of the pertinent information and things, maxims of law, those types of things, canons. And then you go into these administrative tribunals and, well, it's a joke to them, because what are you going to do to them? They'll push a panic button, right?
Yeah.
So, when you're going into something like that that's already stacked against you from the inception of whatever they file against you, there's already bonds that have been made. They're already being sold. They're already in play. And if you're starting in a lower inferior like municipality, they're selling that information to the federal district courts. They're selling that information to the superior courts. And so on up to the Supreme Court. So they know about you well before you get there. In fact, they've been profiting off of the compounding interest from those bonds daily. So, of course, they don't want you to come along and shut them down, with the jurisdictional claim or challenge or any of those types of things. And you can challenge jurisdiction anytime you want. I guess realistically, it depends on how you handle and present yourself. We're not representing, we're presenting. Yeah. And, as long as you keep your terminology tight, you might be able to get somewhere, but it's not even 50-50 at this point in the game. So I don't know. I wouldn't waste my time. That's a commercial jurisdiction that we are not in. We shouldn't be delving in it. I would prefer just to arrest those bad actors and get them out of the way, because they're acting as pretty much domestic terrorists against Americans. Yeah. It's funny because how many times over the past, say, 4 or 5 years have you heard them blaming people who know who they are, challenging them on things that have been done against them, and then they say that they're paper terrorists.
Yeah.
It's so convoluted and nonsensical.
It is. None of it makes sense. And what really amazes me, how a lot of people, they're not grasping what's going on here. It's almost like they want to try to break that shell, but they're too big. They're too, it's so corrupt It can't be done. You know, that's why we as Americans have to set up our assemblies, you know, in the counties, in the state, you know, and that's what Ohio has done, you know. So, you know, we're working on our counties. Other counties around the country are doing the same thing. And that's where we'll find our remedy, you know, in our common law courts. That's the
Well,
only
I
way
mean,
I see it.
you're supposed to be able to invoke common law into your case through these administrative tribunals, and they're just not allowing it, you know, because of internal policies, their processes and procedures that are not law. You know, these are legislative courts. Make no mistake about it, they are not lawful courts. They're just not. I
Yeah,
mean, all the
you know,
reasons.
I've tried to explain that to some people how, okay, you know, they legislate these statutory laws, and people don't realize they are our employees. They're our subcontractors. So why would you let your subcontractor make laws for you? You know, it's like, come on, people.
Well, I mean, they're depriving you of your rights. Anything that they're creating, and then also turning around and creating protections for them so you can't go after them. You have to ask for permission to sue them. Of course, they're going to say no. And then, you know, they're going to argue with you that, oh, you're not a licensed bar attorney. Well, I got news for you. There's no such thing as a licensed bar attorney. Okay. They got a dues card, you know, with their number on it. I mean, let's just put it this way, somewhere in a law book, it says that you cannot license or prohibit the practice of law. And I'm sure there's some case law on that too. Now, these ALJs will argue that, oh, that's old, that's out of date. Well, it's a precedent, it's stare decisis, it's already been ruled and decided. So I don't need your interpretation because you don't like what I just said. And that's not how that works. So, anyhow, they just, you know, it turns into, you know, where you argue with them, and then they play all the jurisdiction games to claim they have jurisdiction. There's so much deception and fraud that goes on, and crimes are being committed by these so-called lawful people, you know, that are operating in the eyes of justice. It's ridiculous. I mean,
Yeah,
I would really,
I heard one time.
yeah,
I wish I would take the time and look into it. I heard that the bar has it's either their creed or their code where no fact or evidence will be tried in courts.
that's
And you know, when the people hear that, it's like, come on, use your brain here, put it together. Stuff
yeah,
isn't that
yeah.
hard.
So to kind of, you know, stack onto that is, you know, Bill of Rights, constitutionally protected and guaranteed rights that they took an oath to support and uphold. All that stuff goes out the window because if you don't know who you are and you don't know a little bit about that system and how it works, they're going to get you every time. And let's just point out that 99% of the time, if not just straight up 100, you're being under threat, duress, and coercion. If you read all of their paperwork, their summonses, all of the things that they send, um, one word doesn't just have one meaning. You know, there's multiple meanings behind, you know, their word salad game that they play. And if they actually do properly serve you and give you due notice, which most of the time they skip steps. So you're telling me out of the 30 steps it took to get that paperwork in a mailbox that belongs to my administrator, that you followed every single step before you threatened me to show up and appear for a general appearance. Um, it, you know, and then you get there and it's like, okay, well, you're here, it's a general appearance, we have personal jurisdiction. No, you don't. Not when you broke the law and you threaten somebody to be there and they're under duress. And then when they make that challenge, they just completely ignore it because you're there. They push that red panic button. You're getting jumped on.
Well, you know what? I think the people in general around this country pretty much know, you know, that word salad, legalese. You know, the legalese that they use in there, the language, words mean certain things, you know, and I think people are starting to catch on to it. And it's just, yeah, it's really crazy, but more people should look into it, you know. Definitely.
Absolutely. It starts there. I mean, for me, I just happened to be reading through some manuals and, trying to learn my job and be efficient at it. And, those are technically inspectable items, and you have to know what is involved in those manuals. You could get checked at any point in time by your leadership. They can come out of nowhere and just, hey, site blah blah blah, go. Well, if you're not prepared, you're going to get yourself in trouble, and it's just not worth it. So you study the stuff until you memorize everything that you can possibly memorize, and everything else. Another inspectable item is your notepad, which I used to keep in my shoulder pocket, and anything I needed that for whatever reason I couldn't memorize, I would just pull that out, and I have my notes.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, you would end up running into those type of situations where you're talking about different types of persons, legal versus lawful, admiralty and maritime versus soil. Um, we just got into so many different things.
Oh,
You know?
they had put such a, and I'd love to have one of these lives where we just talk about this legalese, some of these words, the black magic they use in the courtroom, it's like an act, the judge is in there in a robe. They have to summons you. We all know this stuff. Well, most people do. And
Well, you don't
it's
summon,
literally crazy,
you don't summons the living, you summons the dead.
Yeah,
And when I say dead, I mean your, legal fiction, the all caps
exactly.
name, one of your all caps names, because it just depends. If they're doing maritime, they might use one version of it, and then in the maritime side, they might use a different variation where they might put your last name first, middle initial, first name, you know.
Yeah.
And so, you got to really watch that. And a lot of times when you shut them down on two or three of those, then they'll come back with some other variation that they created. And it's just a big game to them. They just keep creating more legal fictions.
Yeah.
So you just got to shut all that stuff down. And, that's not who I am. That's not me.
Well, bottom line is I think that we have to get the people in every county, every state of the union to start realizing you're not going to get remedy. That's what I feel. You're not going to get remedy in them courts. In the C jurisdiction, administrative courts, it's just not happening. So instead of wasting time in there, join your assemblies, get your common law courts started. And, well, first of all, you got to change your political status, become American again. And then we take the reins over. We start doing what's right.
Yeah, I
That's
was
how I
going to
feel.
say you got roughly about a 2 to 5% chance of getting something done. And that's if you're following their paperwork, using their paperwork, and playing their securities fraud game so they can profit off of you. And then by the time you get before a magistrate or an administrative law judge, um, if you're challenging anything that makes them look bad, chances are they're just going to dismiss it. They'll listen to you. Some of them will just sit there and patronize you, and then they'll dismiss it. So,
Well, they have a 98% conviction rate, and that's for a reason. That's deals with that CRIS system, which, man, we could go into that at another time for hours. That is something that'll blow your mind away.
yeah, that's why the family courts are so corrupt, is because the big majority of the profits that they make from that all go into that CRIS system or their retirements. There's kickbacks that go to attorneys based on performance in cases. They flop on you on purpose. You're paying them thousands of dollars because your life's on the line, your liberty, your
Yeah.
freedom, and they go into these places and allow all types of just criminal activities happen to you, violations out the wazoo. And when you challenge them on it, nothing happens. They don't get in trouble. I don't know if you know this or not, but a lot of the bar associations in the majority of the counties, they're not open to the public. You can't
I
just
didn't
go
know
into
that.
these places. A lot of times they'll say that they're they're not doing business for the public and everything that they do is internal. Well, how do you make a complaint for unethical conduct or something of that nature? And a lot of times they'll claim, oh, well, you got to go through the court. No, that's just okay. So I just got violated. My rights got violated in the court, the same very place. Now you're telling me to make a complaint. I have to go through the same people.
Yeah.
What do you think is going to happen there? Nothing. They don't even make complaints when they know unethical conduct happens.
Yeah.
They might witness it daily, hourly, and they still don't make complaints because they get so many strikes and they're not bondable. And they know it. So, or they'll get put out of a job. Judges, magistrates threaten them. So, I feel bad for the clerks. This is how your system treats you.
Yeah.
You know?
One big show, man.
U.S.
Show
citizens
must
should
go
be
on.
getting. I was gonna say, yeah, U.S. citizens should be pretty upset, with how their de facto government is treating them, how their foreign subcontractor agents are violating their rights daily, and they're just allowing it to happen. I'd be pretty mad if I was in that jurisdiction.
Well, yeah, exactly. I'll tell you what, over the years, I have been very, very mad, and that's when I finally woke up and was like, okay, there's something better than this. And that's when I started looking into the political status changing and stuff. And, I didn't know it, but I wasn't an American. I was a U.S. citizen, which, you have no rights. We all know that. So another thing that blows my mind, once people start figuring this stuff out, okay, you're a U.S. citizen and you don't have rights, and just go into court and you'll see. Come on, doesn't this stuff register, or don't you want to be an American again and have property? You can own property and stuff, and
yeah, it's a
really
double-edged sword.
befuddles me. I get so messed up. It's like, wow.
Yeah, I mean, the indoctrination, it starts from when you're a little kid, and it goes through the public education system. By the time you're an adult, you're somewhat an adult, 18 years old, you're so indoctrinated and so scared that if you do anything wrong, you're going to be punished, jailed. I mean, they really put the fear into you. And that's because, they don't know about us putting the fear of God into them for doing it. So the sooner they stand up and realize something's wrong with that system, the whole thing is just based on fraud and deception, the better off they're going to be, and there's no way out. There's no way out of that unless if you go through. There's no way around it, under it, over it. You got to go straight through it. That's the only way to face anything.
Yeah, yeah. I was reading on that thought. I was reading something today about your estate, what happens after you die or something, and it said something about they have like 2 to 3 years to cash before them bonds, all the bonds that are involved with your yourself, your straw man and stuff. And I was wondering if a person a family member could go in there and take care of those bonds, buy it, have them get them bonds back.
Well, that would be delving into trust law and estates and stuff like that. And yes, it can be delegated through trust, to your kin. That is possible. Those trusts typically are, they're open for 99 years. That's why they do their damnness to try and kill us off before we're 99, because that's more money for them to get their hands on. So that's the name of the game, So, food poisoning, every day, outdoor activities, you don't realize you're inhaling things that have been being crop dusted or, misted through the air. There's so many different things that cause cancer or make you terminally ill, cause tumors. And Western medicine does not teach MDs anything about any of that. In fact, it's counteractive. It teaches them just to use big pharma. Oh, well, if you have these symptoms, here, take this. Your insurance will cover 80% of it. No big deal,
Yeah.
What if it costs $5,000 or $10,000 a month and it covers 80%, and then you're every month picking up the tab for that 20%? Does that